So I know talks of core target audience have been coming up as we have, just as we were talking through some of the earlier topics today. Did you guys have, I'd love to hear any ideas you're excited about, or if anybody had any particular psychographics that they felt really strongly about, or anything that's really helpful that came from this. Does anybody want to share some of what they came up with? Yeah.
So this is something Jay and I have been talking about too, to try to get into the psyche, the mindset of our ideal client, and speak to some of their struggles or pain points. Because as we know, when we start to talk about the problem, the inverse of the solution, right, we start to really connect with the audience better. So for us, that's feelings of overwhelm, of inadequacy, of not having confidence or the skills to actually be successful in business, to build the figure that we know how to build. Maybe questions of self-worth, not enough, and just lack of direction. That can be for us tools, training, support, leadership. So we're really trying to focus on the psyche of somebody who wants to be successful in this business, has been sold a bill of goods, been told about the dream, they get into it, they don't have any of it.
Yeah, that's so good, because at any time you go to write, anytime you create content, you speak to that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so powerful. I mean, that is really the difference between brands that have kind of that slowish growth versus brands that really do have that hockey stick effect. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Anybody else? Here,
Well, I think the whole concept of doing it was awesome. I never thought about it like this. It's embarrassing in one way because I never thought about it, but I realized that it's focusing on the person and knowing more what that person sees and thinks about. I realized also I'm guesstimating a little bit. I probably don't know. I haven't even seen the whole multinational company.
So you brought up a really good point, and this actually came up in my work with my meditation coach client, who's like, how do I know if it's right? I'm so worried I'm going to make a mistake here. And I think part of what's cool about this is you are creating your ideal client. This whole process is we get to literally, as if we were shaping them from clay, create them. So it's not really a right or wrong. We do want to go back and check and balance it versus the answers you put in the grand helix, just to make sure that everything is still cohesive. But it really comes from just your knowledge and your experience of your client, and then also who you are.
It's good to think from their view, so that I come with my awesome solutions and I'm in love with my little baby, right? And then they look from their side, it's like, really, who cares? If it doesn't fit to that scenario, right? And some of them are pretty, I'm sure I'm correct in some things. And it's something that I don't necessarily think about as much. It's good exercise to do.
You just had that is like the biggest mistake when people get, so in phase 2, brand creation, when we get to like visual identity, website copy and stuff, that is the #1 problem, is that we all write copy from our perspective instead of from their perspective. So that's like super hectic. I was also curious, I'm curious to hear Jared, because you decided, like, decidedly said earlier, demographically speaking, you want your audience to be diverse. So what did you come up with for the psychographics?
For me, I guess there was a lot of stuff to basically point to, like, my ideal clients just have really great BS detectors, and so the opposite is true. Like, they value protecting their downside, they value getting value, they value they don't have to buy from someone that's perfect, but they'd rather support or go find someone that's bold, like Elon Musk versus a typical like Fortune 100 CEO. So there is some wiggle room to lead that audience, but if you're bold and like you come at a high integrity place, they care about being a great leader, and also if they're going to be led, they want to be led well. They want to receive like exclusive opportunities, be treated specially, basically anything that's new or cutting edge, they'll take interest in. But if it's going to last, so cryptocurrency is like a thing, and then it's not, like they'll immediately abandon it. But they're going to be interested in it while it's there, or at least like want to see it.
So they're like early adopter-ish a little bit?
Yeah, but they'll like quickly fade if it's not for them. Do they care about me, or do they give an F, they care about social proof, both seeing it in whoever they're going to buy from and building it for themselves. A lot of our current members are like obsessed with getting TEDx talks or books, and I'm just like, it's actually not that difficult to get a TEDx talk, or why it doesn't matter. They build a better product, but I mean, it does matter. That's why this company exists in large part.
Well, it's funny you use the TED Talk example because we applied to, how many was it, Elle?
I apply to every state.
And we got rejections from
You think it was only
28
Wow.
TED Talks before, and the only one that took us was
Douglasville.
TEDx Douglasville. And the only reason they took us is because it was the first time they'd ever done one.
Okay.
And there was less than 100 people in the audience.
Hey,
See, I guess I approach getting mine differently. So while I've had 2 TEDx talks and 1 like TED Institute talk, mine certainly didn't get the views that you had, so you were way better prepared for it. Like you already had your messaging down pat.
But you got in there a
Yeah.
lot easier.
So, yeah, I guess I just saw that like these are some of the brainstorms at least, that they just really cared about competence and integrity, and that might just reflect what I care about. Just like I really value that stuff. And then like passions and interests. So, a lot of people love travel, music, culture, meditation is something we've talked a lot about in recent masterminds. Being fit, work-life integration. I was thinking about like where are the new clubs they hang out in, like the Battery in San Francisco, or even like the WeWork versus like the old country club. Like probably not going to find a mastermind member in a country club. It's not going to happen. So
That's very interesting.
and even like we have like 3 generations in our membership currently. They're all like they think like millennials, so like they think entrepreneurially. They don't believe necessarily in institutions. Like they're pretty open-minded to new ways of doing things, or at least what I study in my old ways of doing things. Like the top performing millennials. Like I don't speak for all millennials everywhere, but like the top performing millennials have similar psychographics that our ideal clients have, and that's like an age agnostic sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing is just thinking about it personally from a Being in Genius network, right? So
Yeah.
it's a good investment to be in that, but it's just, I don't know how much this is, but just thinking about why we invested in that was just being surrounded by like raw brain power.
Yeah.
Just being trying to be around the smartest people out there, whatever. AJ and I were having this conversation.
I told him and Hillary, it's like
Oh,
one of the
tell
things,
everybody, yeah.
it's like one of the things that we laughed about, because I think 10 years ago, the thought of spending tens of thousands of dollars to have friends would have been like, can we not make our own friends? It's like,
Like
we're that
we used to make fun
uncool.
of people in fraternities.
Well, I did it, because
She
I was
did
in
it,
a
she was
sorority.
sorority, but
But-
at my school, it was like,
Girl
oh, you
trip.
pay for your friends, that.
But it was like, it's such a funny thing, because now, it's like our entire mentality, it's like, if we're not spending that kind of money to intentionally surround ourselves with people that we want to be with, then we're unintentionally surrounded by people that aren't challenging us, aren't growing, we're not learning from them, they're not as successful, they don't care about the same things, they're not doing the same things. And it's like, so now our mentality is, yeah, we'll spend the money to make friends, because it's like, if we're not spending it to be intentional, then we're unintentionally just friends by convenience or proximity. And it's such a mind shift change of going, it's like, we've met some of our closest friends because we invested that money, and these aren't just like business connections, these are people that we now do life with. And we would have never met those people 10 years ago, because we would have been like, we don't have to pay money to make friends. But now it's like, actually we do.
And the thing that Joe's done really well, like you mentioned Tony Robbins care, so AJ went to Business Mastery last year.
I guess that one.
Yes, it's so funny when you
That's the one I went to.
You said you probably.
That's what I think I mentioned on hers.
That's so crazy, yeah, so we, my whole forum went, so I'm an EO, and my whole
Yeah,
forum
he
went.
is another group that we're in. You have is that going to Tony Robbins or some of these other things that we go to is like you go to learn from like a person, but genius like Joe has done a great job of like it's not about him at all. Like you're not learning from him. It's all about the network.
Yeah, he does a pretty good job.
So I think that's a really cool. It's cool that he's been able to do that.
Quality of people in a room.
Just one thing to piggyback off of what both you said, that, I'm kind of this year been the same way, which is, paying for that kind of proximity is power, right? Because power and knowledge has value, and value costs something, right? So by putting myself in those circles, those rooms, which I wouldn't ordinarily have been able to, I think I've cut like 2 to 3 years off of like a lot of our learning on our own, right? Through our failures and missteps. So it's just, you want to be that old adage, right? You want to be the smartest, most successful in the world. Well, pay up then to be in those rooms.
Yeah.
And I think I want to just on a side note, chat with you guys about things I've been considering. Genius Network, I love, Joe's work and his podcast and all the other stuff. Seems like a good investment.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a catch-22 too, because I've historically found that I have attracted like very high intellect readers and like awesome people like that do message me about my TED Talks or message me about my books. So even though not a lot of people have seen it, like the right people have seen it, it's sort of not something I've been intentional about. But moving forward, it's something that you have to back it up, right? You have to come to the table with like the best experience possible and the best product possible. But if you can do that and you have a very reputable marketing or branding, messaging, all that, then with every new client, the bar gets raised and the group becomes more valuable.
And to answer your question from before, I do give an F about you.
Yeah.
People give an F about you. Yeah, really, really good. So let's move to demographics. So demographics are a little funky, and sometimes people get weird about them too. People get weird about it. We will work through it. It will all be okay. But demographics are really important, I would say, for 2 primary reasons. One is just so that we can continue to narrow down who is your most likely person who you are serving. This is not about exclusion. I want to be very, very clear about that. It is not about exclusion.
Why it is?
Heather has no soul, but she was
The men suck mastermind. No males allowed mastermind.
No, I'm not one of those.
Yeah, your gender part is going to be very clear.
I'll
It's
be
going to be
right.
the easiest thing you do all day. Yeah.
I just had to put it up.
But the other part where it's really, really useful and needed is for ad targeting. So as you get into more of phase 2 and phase 3, where maybe you're putting out Facebook ads or Instagram ads or LinkedIn ads, like you have to pick things like gender and age and all of that. And so I think most of these are relatively self-explanatory. I think the only person who's really in a B2B brand in here is probably you, right? Is that right? So you'll see here, like thinking B2B, think about revenue and employees. Age, you can do a range for this first one.
Although, so, Sevi, I guess you would be going after independent fitness people, not gyms.
Yeah, yeah.
You'd be like an independent, kind of like come to your house, do a workout kind of person.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess you could license the methodology out to a gym and they could have it as like a premier class or something, but I think that kind of makes it makes it a little bit too demographic, a little too small almost, because there's only so many progressive like corporate gyms, so I mean, yeah.
You're really B2C.
Yeah, but at the same time, so many of the gyms now, they have the independent trainers who come in, they can offer courses in the gym, they're just paying a fee.
Yeah.
So,
But you're still hitting the trainer and the
Not the
trainer's
gym.
kind of bringing it in.
Yeah.
Or you could OEM it to those like the LBAC, Las Vegas Athletic Club, and have their branding on it and like their color scheme, and so it could be specific to them in that way, so that all their trainers are cohesive. And they pick up their personal trainer from
certification.
24-hour fitness, and all those have, and then that's just an added that the 24-hour fitness pays for all of their personal trainers.
Yeah.
Question real quick on that, I was just curious, like, based on the wall that's in front of you right now that you're trying to break through, is it B2C right now, like growing B2C now, and then the B2B element is to get through the next wall to scale up, obviously, because it's hard to scale yourself, right, you training, so I'm just wondering sequencing, or is it like you're already everything you want to do in the B2C space, and now it's B2B is this new shift to help you scale? Like, I just am curious, timing-wise.
Yeah, I think it's like the methodology still, the pieces are still being put together. It's still trying to get like kind of fleshed out. So the program and how it's presented in a class platform is like really clear and concise. So those pieces are still being figured out, and I think that I still have to go and teach it to people, not coaches, first,
Yeah.
to see what the lower, if people are like, oh yeah, like this is really cool. Because if people are like, I don't really get it, I don't see it, then the trainers and coaches are like, well, if people don't get it, then why do I want to learn it? So
Yeah, there's nothing to scale.
Yeah, exactly.
Because nobody's buying that.
Right.
Now, on the keynote side, any of this, everyone except Nick, keynoting typically is gonna have some of a B2B element, depending on what your space is, but.
Explain a little more like the B2B is.
So business to business is basically like, are you calling into a company or are you selling to individuals? So like B2C is business to consumer. And most high-paying keynotes are from companies that have large budgets. Right. You have associations, which is usually how you start. That's how you break in as a keynote speaker. Is you start by speaking to associations because everyone in the audience is from a different company, and that's how you get spin-off. But those budgets are lower. And even an association is kind of more like a B2B environment because it's like an organization. But then there are B2C keynote events, like Lewis's is an example, where it's usually like a guru putting on an event. Generally speaking, though, again, the fees are much lower in that range. So like when you start really crossing north of $10,000 fees, you're almost always going to be, would you say that?
No, but
Oh, you wouldn't say
I
that?
think it's all the time.
Do you think
No, I think,
individuals are paying that?
I think that tons of associations, which are not B2B, they're,
Well, yeah.
and summits and all none of those are B2B. They're most definitely up in that realm.
But on this, you wouldn't look at employees, but like member size and revenue and stuff for an association.
Member size and revenue,
Yeah.
member size. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that's just more of a beta. It's just more of like a corporate sale, like there's a decision-making committee kind of thing. But
I said that.
that's it.
It's its own beast. I spent 10 years in working with meeting planners for keynotes.
Al's good to talk to you on that too, wherever she is.
So I ran our speakers. I ran our speakers. And so I'll just say, that landscape is very much changing into individual sponsoring, and it's been a very changing dynamic. Even the amount of events that are on Eventbrite, where people are paying to come in, and all of these individuals who are hosting their own events now because they're trying to create their own mastermind or their own event series. They're individually sponsored, which 5 years ago that wasn't the case, but today it really is. So I say it's both.
You're saying they're hosting their own event?
Yes,
So
individuals.
that would be like B2C model, which is the best way to be a speaker is to build your own audience, right? Like that's the most guaranteed
But they're going
way.
out and finding speakers. They're not speaking for themselves.
I gotcha. Yeah, all right, so.
Carry on. Okay.
Carry on.
So if you have a couple extra minutes when we're going through this, during the brainstorming, perhaps brainstorm a little bit about who would be my audience if I were speaking, would I be speaking at an association, would I be speaking at a business, you can kind of include that in there too. Again, most of this is self-explanatory, but for the age, think about, this is part of why we do psychographics first, think about kind of their life state, your ideal client, like my meditation coach, he was thinking originally, because online it says that the highest proportion of people suffer from anxiety between ages 35 and 55, so he's like, that's gonna be my age range. But then when we started honing in on the psychographics of his person, it's like they are earlier on in their life, they're starting off, they're building a family, and so I kind of begrudgingly got him to shorten a little bit just to help with his targeting. Ethnicities, like, does somebody want to take a stab at ethnicity versus race? This is one that I feel is always like weird, and
Ethnicity is the region in which you are from.
so we're not doing race.
Well, races, different races.
Right. Race is not
White,
under that.
white Caucasian is a
Right.
race. However, you could have 15 different ethnicities and still be white Caucasian.
So we're only targeting ethnicity here.
Well, or it just depends. With some people that really applies and sometimes it really doesn't. It depends if you've got a really niche group. That also depends on if you have a localized demographic You know, a lot of that just really depends on who you're going